I had a dream just this past Tuesday, August 18th, and I was going to read it to you. I just feel pressed that I should share this dream. I had a dream in the early hours of Tuesday morning, and in the dream, I was driving in a car on a side street, coming to a stop sign. I saw people running in different directions in a frenzied state of huge panic. I'm not sure why they were running or who they were running from. I saw a man in my rearview mirror being led down the middle of a side street that I was on, where I was now sitting in my car, stopped at the stop sign, and I was waiting to turn, but the street that I was waiting to turn on, people were just running down the street like out of their mind with fear. This man was handcuffed with his hands behind his back, and unknown soldiers were leading him down the street. I kind of slumped down low in my seat and told the passenger, and I believe it was my daughter, one of my daughters, to stay low, keep quiet, and don't move. This fear came over me, and I knew I was in a very dangerous position. They appeared not to see me, thankfully. And in the dream, I somehow knew the man, although I didn't really recognize him personally, but in the dream, I somehow knew him. And remembered thinking that his wife was going to be upset that her husband did what he did, although I didn't know what that was. I somehow knew that he had lost control somehow and now was being led down the open street. And in the dream, I felt that his fate was going to be death. Then in another part of the dream, I was inside a huge building where it appeared that people were being placed or kept. And this building was also kind of simulating the high school where I work, although it was much bigger. Brown flood water was rising, and it was to my mid-abdomen, and at times I was actually swimming down the hallways trying to get to where I needed to be. I was searching for my daughter, but I was also at work for whatever reason, you know how dreams are. I was searching for my oldest daughter, who has autism, and I was frantically searching for her as whatever had just occurred. There was mass pandemonium, and I needed to find her to keep her safe. As I was wading through the rising, flooded hallways on the first floor, a female high school student came up to me frantically and said, "Where am I supposed to register in all this mess, in all of this?" And I gestured down the hall, telling her that there are tables set up at the end of the hallway where she could register and get her schedule. And then it's like I wasn't thinking about the danger of the flood in the dream, you know how it just seems like commonplace. But I turned and looked, and I'm like, "Do you want me to come with you?" Because I recognized that it was a dangerous situation. And she said, "No," and this plunged forward. And then I decided to go upstairs. I turned my attention again to searching for my daughter. I went to the second floor where the school office was located. People were running frantically here and there, and the door to the administrator's office was closed, but I could see a light on there and talking behind closed doors. I felt that somebody very evil was behind that door making plans. A kid came up to me and asked, "Am I allowed to leave?" And I immediately said no. But then I felt a darkness and sense of urgency about who was behind the door and the entire crazy situation, and immediately said, "Do you have a safe place to go?" And he said yes, and I told him, "Go, get out as soon as possible." And then he took off. It appeared that no person in this dream was actually trying to work, or there was anybody giving any type of directives. It was mass chaos. I headed down the hall, still the water rising near my chest, and at the end of the hallway, God spotlighted the bottom of this closed door, and I could see my daughter's feet pacing back and forth, and her talking, "What is going on here?" And I was relieved and headed in that direction to get her to safety, and that's where the dream ended. And this happened last week, and I immediately sought, after I woke up, I immediately was on my knees praying. I sought God. And as it was a literally terrifying dream, I asked him to show me clarity for this dream. And it wasn't until a couple days later in the middle of the night that one thing did stand out in the dream that I didn't notice when I first was thinking about it. the female student that ran up to me asking where she was supposed to register for classes, and then me pointing to tables down the hall. We do this at the beginning of each school year where the kids can register and pick up their schedules from a counselor. Since it appeared to be similar to the school I teach at, I assumed the timing would be around the students' first week back to school, which begins on September 8th. Normally the tables are just set up the first week of school. Other than that, I kind of just take the dream for what it is, and that something or someone is going to implement control and instill total fear, devastation, and mass chaos will ensue. People were all trying to still go about their business in rising floodwaters. Tensions were rising and people were recklessly doing their own thing to survive without care for anyone around them. I believe the floodwater represents an out-of-control situation, as it is already above the waist and almost to my chest by the end of the dream. In the dream, it was every man for himself, and reminded me several times of the Titanic movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, where people were running here and there in a total panic for their lives. I also noticed that the fear in people around me caused them to be oblivious to others, and no one was banding together to help each other or to fight whatever was going on. Each person was so totally afraid that they were running alone in wild abandon. The one student asking me if he was allowed to leave indicated a respect for trying to follow the rules, but it was so overwhelmingly chaotic that order was no longer present, and I overrode any administrator decision given that situation. Now, it may have been just a stress dream, who knows? But I know one thing: I want to be ready spiritually, mentally, and physically to protect myself and my family. I'm trusting in God for his protection if something should happen. And I just feel like I needed to share this with other people as a possible warning as well. Thanks for listening.